Hey everybody, it's Yoli Chisholm, and it's my objective to change your perspective. Today I wanted to talk to you about some of the things that can happen to you when you move up the corporate ladder that I don't think are really good for you in the grand scheme of things, as you think about developing your skill set over time and being prepared for the future or for unforeseeable circumstances like getting fired or being laid off. So, what am I talking about? So, what can happen, and it differs from industry to industry and different fields. But for example, in my field of marketing, you start off at a sort of entry level marketing coordinator might be your first job in the marketing discipline, and then you might move up into sort of a marketing manager type role. Then you might become a senior marketing manager, and then you might become a director. And what happens? Like I've had all of those roles over the last 20 years. And what happens is there is this sort of distinction between being somebody who is an executor versus somebody who is strategic. And so the idea is that the more you move up the ladder, the more strategic you become as you sort of direct others and direct and develop programs and think more broadly about the impact of your programs, which is great. And you develop skill sets along the way that enable you to do that. The challenge that I have found, so for example, I have been at the manager or at the director levels for maybe about 15 years. And if I wasn't the type of person that I am in terms of being entrepreneurial, it could mean that I've actually, for those 15 years, would not have actually ever executed anything. So never actually been the person to set up the campaign, never actually been the person to go and develop the banners. So let me give you an example. Today, this is Saturday afternoon, and I just came back from the print shop because I need some signage developed for one of my side hustles. And so I actually had to work with the designer to create the design. I had to actually get all the specs. I had to actually find the print shop, go down to the print shop, work with them to actually figure out how they're going to translate the design into the banner, figure out what's the materials. So here's an example. This is vinyl and it's one-sided. And I know that I could have gotten it double-sided. I know what the prices are if I had decided to go double-sided, if I had to do it full color versus just black and white versus 2-color, 4-color, 6-color, etc. And as a director, this is stuff I would not really think about. I would have told the agency my specs, expected the agency to come back and give me sort of my options. But at no time would I actually be the one to touch and feel what the end product's going to be. Look at the specs, look at the pricing. They'll come back with a proposal that has everything baked in, including what they top up. And so my point is, sometimes what happens the longer we're in the corporate world, and this is what I mean by the difference between just being a regular employee and really crushing corporate and having that entrepreneurial mindset when you're within the organization, is being able to do what you're directing others to do. And I'll tell you why you want to maintain that even as you move up the corporate ladder. If you're not able to do that within your current role, find ways to stay active in the execution side through your side hustles. And what it brings to you as a manager or as a director is a comfort level. You will know when the agency is bullshitting you. You will know when they're overpriced. You will know when they are misleading you about how long it should actually take. You will have a comfort level and understand the process. And then you can look at the proposal and have a comfort level. The other thing is, when you stay rooted in the execution in whatever way you can, it gives you a confidence. A lot of people will say to me, oh, I don't know how you do it, Yoli. You seem so, like it comes easy. It's not that. It's that I haven't gotten fancy. And that's one of the words that one of my favorite entrepreneurs, Gary Vaynerchuk, uses a lot, is that sometimes as we get further up the ladder, we get fancy, and then we forget what it's like to execute. And so the other thing is, regardless of how many people I manage, regardless of how big my team gets or how many agencies I might be working with or directing, I know how to run a Facebook ad. I know how to run a Google AdWords campaign. I know how to run a sponsored content ad through Outbrain or Taboola. I know how to execute the ad. And so as a director, when I have even my teammates that I manage, I can help them and give them guidance and come at it not from a position of somebody who's just directing, but of somebody who actually knows what it should work like. Now, do I always have the time to do that? Not necessarily so, but I make time, particularly if you love your discipline. So how does that translate into other industries or other types of roles? It just means, stay in the game. Regardless of the fact that you've moved up the ladder, just make sure you don't necessarily stop understanding how technology is impacting the executional side of things. Make sure you still know how to do those other roles. Now, why is this important when it comes to those of you who are thinking about becoming entrepreneurs? Well, guess what? When you become an entrepreneur, when you finally leave the corporation, there's no agency to direct. There's no team to tell to do this and that. The team becomes you, right? The team is you and maybe your co-founders, and you're wearing multiple hats. You still need to know how to execute. More so than ever, particularly because of the pace of changes in execution. If I get fired tomorrow, I know how to go back to being a marketing coordinator. I know how to do that. I know how to, run a campaign from scratch, develop creative from scratch, work and negotiate directly with the vendors. In your field, what is that thing? Whether you're in accounting, whether you're in finance, when you become a director of an accounting team, do you stop understanding how technology's affecting doing your accounting work? Just because you're not the person calling for the invoices and doing the numbers at the end of the month, you need to make sure you stay on top of your game, right? Stay certified, stay understanding how to execute. That is if you really do want to figure out how to be entrepreneurial. The other thing that it helps with, and I'll make this my final point, is that whatever your field is, if you are, still active in executing, regardless of how far you've moved up, what it allows you to do is be almost like, I hate this word because we overuse it, but a growth hacker, in that because you stay active in the execution, when you're an executor, you're always thinking about, how do I get to do things faster? How can I make my job more efficient? Because I've got this much volume, I need to work this much faster. And so you're always thinking about, how do I improve the processes? If you're not in execution, you're just managing a big team, and you it's very hard for you to think about the innovative ways you can improve the process. But once you, if you're doing it, you know, so the way I accomplish that, you know, I might not be able to do it in my role because I'm not executing. I manage a bunch of people who are excellent at execution. But in my side hustles, I make sure that I'm doing the execution, and then I can bring back what I've learned. I can bring back the skill sets that I've learned into the organization in my 9 to 5 gig. These are the things that it's really hard to articulate, and it's hard until once you're in the, you know, once you've gotten sort of sucked into the bubble of working in the corporate world. But that is one of the characteristics that I talk about in my book, Crushing Corporate, in terms of what are the characteristics of people who think entrepreneurially. And that is, you still act, behave like an entrepreneur within the corporation. I hope that was helpful. And it's just my opinion. Have a great day.